Hey engineers, welcome. Thank you all for being here. Senior, thank you for coming and giving us the assignment brief. Everybody, I'll be sending out this email, and unfortunately I wasn't able to load the last brief that we did with the Chiefs panel. YouTube was giving some issues. Hopefully these both will upload, and then I'll send both those links together. And then after that, sir, floor is yours.
All right, so again, how's everybody doing?
Very good.
Good. So I'm Senior Master Sergeant Thomas Mans. I am the new 3 functional manager over at AFPC. Again, this is the briefing we give at the 570 courses to superintendents for E8s and above, and like chiefs. We also give this briefing to commanders and superintendents at Randolph as well. So it's very informative. I have a phenomenal person who's going to brief you. It's Texar Millhouse. She's one of my assignment NCOs. So this is how it works up there. These are the topics we're going to go over. Our roles and responsibilities, our assignment philosophies and priorities, the people involved, time on station, requirements, the overseas process, overseas return process, equals plus, my thing. Enlisted vectoring, we really don't go too much into that because our MFMs are involved in that. I put it up there as a slide and we can give it to you, but I haven't set through the process yet. And in April will be the first time I do the EDT with the functional, so I'll have more information on that. And then we get into special programs, and then we finally ended up with questions. So did I go too fast with that? All right. So this is our team. So again, you have me. That's my job. I'm the advisor to AFPC about everything we do. Like I said, I'm the liaison. I coordinate things with the MFMs and CFMs. I do control the Equal Plus, so the AMS as y'all see out there when you go on there, that's me. And then we also coordinate the AFSC releases with the CFMs. My assignment NCOs, I have two and a half. So I have another master sergeant just joined the team. She's actually a 3 or 4 functional, but she's also helping out the 3 community. But primary is Texar Millhouse, which will be briefing you today. And then we have another one, Staff Sergeant Simmons. She's back at the farm. So without further ado, let's get into the battle rhythm. So I'm gonna turn it over to Sergeant Millhouse. You want me to drive?
You got it?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so good afternoon. I'm Sergeant Millhouse. I am one of your two assignment NCOs for strictly just the CE team. So we take care of everything that has to do with assignments for CE. So anything that has to, with you get an assignment or anything like that, comes through this office. And either myself or Sergeant Simmons or Senior Mans is dealing with that for you guys.
And that's Air Force wide.
Air Force wide, all active duty. We have all about 20,000 of you guys. So it's just him and 2 of us. That's it for all you guys.
Just a little bit.
So we're gonna go start with the battle rhythm. So this is basically our everyday, our day-to-day dealings that we have to give you guys assignments at any given time. So there's 4 quarters in a year. There we go. So every quarter there's 2 different assignment cycles. You have the overseas cycle. So those are the assignments that you'll see on AMS that we post that you're trying to go overseas. And then we have the overseas returning and CONUS mandatory mover cycles. So those are your people with DROSs, so that means they have to come back from overseas, or your code 50s, the AAC 50s that are expiring and need to leave wherever they are. So at any given month, we're working at least 2 of them at the same time. And we'll go into depth into those in a few minutes. Okay. Career Airman BOPs, we work Career Airman BOPs quarterly. The voluntary stabilized base of preference. So those are those crazy locations that nobody wants to go to. Right now there's 4. There's Minot, LA Air Base, I think it's Cannon, and I'm missing one. It's another one. I can't think. There's another couple of slides up, but I'm missing one. But it's 4 of them. Home base and follow-ons, we work those within 120 days of your RNLTD. So that's if you have a short tour and you're trying to get that next assignment. That's what that is. We work those monthly. And then your first term airman, CONUS mandatory mover BOP. So if you're on a assignment availability on a 4-year tour, you can apply for a BOP, and we'll go into depth in that in a minute. We work those monthly. And then every week we work a DROS roster, so those are people who are trying to extend or curtail their DROS. We're working the technical training graduates, so those TTGs getting those assignments, we're doing that every week. All of the CMS cases that are coming from your MPFs, all of your MyPERS questions that you have that you can put up in MyPERS, we're working that all day, every day. And then all the emails that we get from all of you, we're doing all of that at any given time. And
So
there's
you're
only,
busy.
Just a little bit.
yeah, just the 3. And it's just 3 of us
Yeah.
for all of you. So it takes us a minute to get through all of that at any given time.
So again, remember when I started out and I said we had that little surplus? We had one person doing it, she was doing all that by herself. So, yeah, that's a lot.
Ma'am, question?
Yeah.
Is there a way to track the progress of a CMS case on the member side?
No, they would just have to go to the MPS or CSS and just ask them where it is, and the MPS can go into CMS.
Yes.
And see where it is.
Got it.
That would be the only way they can see it, because the member, like, you guys don't have CMS access.
Correct.
All right, so assignment philosophies and priorities. So the Air Force mission always comes first, but we try to take your preferences in order. We're not just out there, you're gonna Mana, you're gonna Hartsville. That's not what happens. There's an actual process of what happens of how we get you guys your next assignment. Most of the time, those assignments take like 30 minutes. We spend 30 minutes on one person. And we still have all of that whole list of stuff to do every single day. So we're not just throwing darts at a board. There's a method to it. Fairness and equity. So, and you can see ahead that there is no by name request. So that means your commander, your chief, a 2-star you knew 5 years ago cannot call AFPC and say, I want this person. There's an actual system to get every assignment. We do not take by name requests on the enlisted side. The officer side is completely different, but for enlisted, because we outweigh them 100 to 1, we can't do that. Because that's when we're starting to get into that good old boy system and everybody's just getting who they want, and then it's not fair to everyone else who doesn't have someone in their back pocket. So if there are no by name requests, the system works the same way for everybody. We also work with your CFMs, the career field managers, your MAJCOM functionals, the followers, and the DRUs. And that's basically on your e-vectoring and the prioritization plan. So that's mainly for your senior master sergeants, getting them in the right spot so they're making the next grade.
Hey, ma'am, do you take in the vectoring, the KLP, and the KDP into consideration?
Yes, when we're actually looking at those assignments in AMS, and we'll go over that a little later in the presentation. All right, so here's the time on station requirements. So CONUS to CONUS, everybody needs 48 months time on station to move CONUS to CONUS. CONUS to overseas, first term airmen only need 12 months, career airmen need 24 months. For basic preferences, first term airmen need 12 months and career airmen need 48 months time on station. That just, we'll put a little caveat on that first term airman part, and we'll talk about it in a couple of later slides. For joint spouse, whether you're going CONUS to CONUS, overseas to CONUS, or CONUS to overseas, you need 12 months time on station.
Ma'am, sorry,
Go
again,
ahead.
with special duties, how does that work now that they took the special duty and they made it 3 years?
What do you mean?
So MTIs, instructors,
We'll go
tech
with
school.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
We're gonna
It's
go.
coming.
We're gonna go with that.
That's 2.
As long as my questions get answered,
Yeah,
I'll
I
take
got
my
you.
3
You got
I'm
one
ready
more.
for you.
No.
I am ready. All right, so here are all the people who are involved, kind of, sort of, in your assignment process. So we work with IMSC, that's where your MAJCOM functionals are, the MFMs, the NPF, your commander, and you as the airman have a part in this assignment process. So IMSC, this is where your MAJCOM functionals are. So they're in charge of the balancing the manning across the commands. They don't necessarily go in and move you, because that's what we do, but they're in charge of making sure what is needed at what base and what command. So if you see here, there's 6 MAJCOM functionals for CE, and this is what MAJCOMs they take care of. Just leave a caveat, because a lot of them are retiring very soon, so just take a mental note. I wouldn't write it down, it's gonna change. All right, so your NPF, the only process that they have in you and your assignment is when you get that assignment notification and they start out processing you. That's basically all the NPF does. Letting you know what entitlements you have, that's the NPS. Please don't call AFPC, that's at the NPS level. I honestly do not know entitlements. It's at the NPS level. That is their wheelhouse. Anything that you need before you go on that assignment will be done at the base level at your local NPF. Orders are created at the local NPF. They create it in a system called OPA, and then they send it up to AFPC. We work assignments, but we do not work your orders. There is a separate office at AFPC who works nothing but orders all day. So it's not us. So if you need to know where your orders are, don't call me, because I have no idea. I don't have the system, so I can't tell you that. You can't even call that office. The NPS cannot call that office. So if you need something, just go to your local NPF, and they have ways to get in touch with them. Or you can call 0102, which will take you to the Total Force Service Center. They're not gonna send you back to the orders office. They're gonna tell you go to the NPF, but they will send a note back to the orders office with whatever your question is. The commander's responsibility. So the commander has 7 days to tell you or to not tell you that you have an assignment. So as soon as we hit that button, the commander gets notified. And he can tell you or he cannot, and that purpose is to give the commander a little say, per se, in where you're going. So if something is going on, because we don't know that, unless there's a code, we don't know anything that's happening. So if he knows that you're gonna get admin separated or something is going on and you don't need to go on that assignment, he can let us know before you know, so we can get that assignment turned off. He can't just call, she cannot just call up to AFPC and say, you can't go to California. He can't do that. He needs a reason. And it needs to be a good reason as to why you can't go on that assignment. RNLTD changes, report no later than date changes, all go to your commanders. So your commanders go in, approve or disapprove it, and then your gaining commander has to also approve or disapprove it. Caveat, your commander is not the end all be all. AFPC has the final approval authority if you can change the RNLTD. So we have this issue every other day. My commander approved it, why can't I
On both
go?
sides, yeah.
Commander does not have the final approval authority. It is the assignment team in AFPC, because we can see the meeting. And then it is also the commander's responsibility to educate the airmen on the responsibilities of actually having an assignment. The airman's responsibility, so you as the airman have a hand in where you go. And the biggest thing is making sure that your dream sheet is updated. Leaving something on your dream sheet and not remembering to go take it off is not an excuse. It's your responsibility to make sure that your dream sheet is updated to what you want at any given time. Because if you leave it there, it happens all the time. Oh, I last updated my dream sheet 5 years ago, and I get hit with Korea, but now I don't want to go. Well, you volunteered for it. You had it on your dream sheet. So making sure that your dream sheets are updated to what you want is taking charge of your career. You're letting us know where you want to go, because you never know when we need to do a reselect or anything. So making sure that dream sheet is key. Equalist, anything you see on AMS and knowing when you are up for any cycle is important, because not knowing when your cycle is not an excuse. That's how people end up at Minot, Grand Forks, because they don't know what cycle they belong to. And not everybody wants to go to Minot or Grand Forks. So it's key to know when you're supposed to be moving. And we'll go over it, so I'll let you know when you're supposed to be moving. Monitoring the assignment cycles, like we just talked about. Understand the have 30 days from the day that you are notified that you have an assignment to get retainability. If you do not get that retainability, your assignment will be canceled by the NPS. It's not AFPC going in and canceling. We're not paying attention to your assignments like that. It's the NPS that's going in there and doing it. With that, if you go back and decide you want that retainability, the NPS can put in a case and have us to reload it. But we're the final approval authority if that assignment is reloaded or not. So it has to be like a very justified reason as to why you didn't get that retainability in time. Because Manning is changing constantly. So if we filled that spot because we now see that that spot is open and we don't know why it's open, and it's open, we're gonna fill it, and now you come back and say, can I have my assignment reloaded? Probably not gonna happen if I don't have that space anymore. So it's important to get that retainability done within that time. All right, the overseas cycle. So this cycle is for everybody. If you're trying to go overseas, this is for you. Caveat with this is you have to be able to meet those RNLTDs without any waivers. Okay, so you'll see on MyPERS, you can go out there and you click the assignment tab on the left-hand side of MyPERS, and this calendar will be right there. It's under the overseas schedule. You'll see it right there. And it'll have specific days. If anything changes, it's always updated right there on MyPERS.
Question with the RNLTD dates. If you're scheduled for a certain month, can you grab an assignment that's earlier than your?
So I'm about to go there.
Okay.
So with this, you have to be able to meet those RNLTD months. Earlier, no, because we're not going to curtail. Like if you guys are on a 50, and let's just say we're working January, February, March, and your 50 ended earlier. Let's say April, the month after. Let's go June. Let's say June, you won't be able to meet January, February, March. So we would have to curtail whatever that 50. So that means you're not eligible. You have to be able to meet those RNLTDs.
So you always want to play forward. So, like I said, if you got one in March and you say you're coming up, you can play. If you see something coming up, like if you're coming back in March, you can play March before. You can't play backwards. If it's up and you still on your code 50.
Yes, ma'am.
I know you said that, with the report no later than change, does that include the commander's 60-day, that they can do up to 60 days prior?
But that has nothing to do with this part.
Yeah.
No, I understand that, but if, say you're in like October, but
Mhm.
the plan is that you would have your commander sign the 60 days prior, which would put you in a different bucket, are you still playing off the October, November, December, or could you actually play off both?
Well, you won't be playing at all if you have an assignment. That's the only way you will do the RNLTD change, if you have an assignment. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure that makes
Yeah.
sense. So you wouldn't be playing if you had an assignment, because that would be the only way that RNLTD change would happen. So only people that can play are people who do not have assignments already in the system. So you have to be able to meet those RNLTDs. Those are the only RNLTDs we're working on. So it's always 3 months that we're working on. So the assignment will be available on AMS on whatever that specific date is. It's usually posted for like 14 days. Your preferences are due by whatever that day. Please don't stay up to 11:59 on whatever that due date is. I don't see what time you change update your dream sheet. I don't see that. Long as it's updated between the day that it's available to the customer and the day that it's due is all that is matters. So if it's updated in the middle, you are good. You don't have to wait till the last day at 11:59. That is a crazy rumor that I've heard for the last 10 years. That is not true. I can't see it. I can see what day that you update your dream sheet. That's all that matters. So once the due date comes and it comes back to us and we work it, and then the assignments will flow on whatever that date is. So about a week after the due date is when the assignments will start flowing. So please don't call AFPC and ask us, did I get an assignment? In about 2 weeks, because your commander has 7 days to notify you or not, you'll know if you got the assignment or not. So please don't call. again, we don't just throw darts at the wall. It's a very long process, and a lot of people are involved when we're working these cycles. So to start the cycle, we go in and see where do we actually need people at, is where we start. So that first week, we go in, so all of your short tour locations have to be manned at 100%. So at all times, if they're not under 100%, those are the bases that we're manned to 100%. That's how many you'll see out there. All your long tour locations, they have to be manned to the worldwide average, and that number is different for every AFSC. Okay, so just because they have those vacancies doesn't mean that they're getting something, because we man to the worldwide average and not to 100% for long tour locations. Okay, so just because you call a base and they say, hey, I have this vacancy, doesn't mean that they're entitled to it. Those are different. So we go and we look and see where we actually need those people, where we need people at, and we compile all of that. We're working back and forth with your MFMs, because the MFMs actually know like different things, like water and fuels is splitting. So they knew that ahead of time. So we had to work to make sure we have the right people in the right places. So we're going back and forth. Yes, sir.
I have one question. So as far as, because I know some bases like Kadena, for example, you could have a long tour or a short tour.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say that Kadena opens up and there's only a short tour available, but you put long tour on your dream sheet. Would you still be looked at for that short tour?
It's not a short tour for seating. There may be something specific there, but we only look at normal man places when we're working the cycle.
Okay.
It may be something special that is why it's a short tour there,
Mm-hmm.
but that won't be in the cycle. That'll be just a ad that you'll see on AMS, specifically for whatever that is.
Okay, so as far as putting in your preferences for overseas on the dream sheet, really doesn't matter whether you put long or short on there. If it's open, that's pretty much where it goes.
Depends. So if it's Korea, all of the regular assignments that we're working for, like Korea or Turkey, they're short tour locations.
Mm-hmm.
So your regular Korea, Turkey, all of those are short tours, and just about everywhere else that we're gonna be working are long tour locations.
Okay,
Yeah, so
Thank you.
Kadena's definitely is gonna be long.
gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're working with the MASHCOMs, again, because the MASHCOM's gonna know specifically what's happening over there. So they're telling us, yes, I need this, like, England is getting ready to upload a bunch of people. So we need to be starting to prepare ourselves to get England there. England to where they need to be. So then it's advertised to AMS, again, it's about 14 days. So you have those 14 days to volunteer. And then it comes back to us to actually go in and rack and stack and see who's the most eligible for these assignments, and we'll go over that rack and stack in a minute. After that, your commander would get the email saying that you got an assignment, that she can notify you or not notify you. After that 7 day, you'll get that congratulations email, and then you can start out processing with the NPS, and then you can say goodbye to whoever you are. All right, so the overseas selection priority, so we always look overseas first. They say it's cheaper to keep them, so we look at them first. So your COT, the consecutive overseas tour volunteers, they're who we're looking at first. And then we look at your CONUS volunteers. So it goes short tour, extended long, and then we look at your standard long. All preferences are equal. So this means, and we always look at short tours first. So let's say, and you get 8 preferences for overseas. So if you put Ramstein, Kadena, everywhere in the world, you wanna go worldwide, you wanna go to Turkey. Well, we start with short tours first. So that means Korea is now your number 1. So it doesn't matter what order you put it in, just make sure it's on your list. And the best way to get an assignment is to put worldwide. Because you can go anywhere if that's what you wanna do. Non-volunteers, so the short tours are recognized by fewest numbers of short tours and the short tour return dates. And your long tours are recognized by overseas duty selection date for long tour selection. So if you haven't been over there, I'm gonna be top on the list, especially if you haven't been anywhere. So it depends on who's all in your career field.
Ma'am,
Yes, sir.
it says be aware of higher tenure restrictions. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so if you're HYT, you're not going overseas. If you're HYT restricted, so let's say your HYT is,
So if you're trying to go, for example, stateside to overseas, and you're, is that what we're talking about?
or even overseas to overseas.
Okay.
So if you're HYT restricted and you can't get whatever that tour length is, you're not going.
Got it.
We just skip right on over you and go on to the next person.
Makes sense.
So the eligibility roster, the EOS that we use is the eligibility for overseas. It's this like 3,000 page document that we have to go through and look at every single person on the list. So they call it the hot list. I honestly have never heard it called that, but that's what they say. So this roster is updated all the time. So it's ranked and stacked by your AFSC, your rank, your grade, your volunteer status, and your overseas vulnerability. So all your 301s are together with the same AFSC. So 301 AFSC or A1C, senior airman, and so on. Same thing for every other rank. So you don't have to worry about a staff sergeant going up against a tech sergeant because you're only going up against staff sergeant. Your volunteer status, so again, just like we talked about before, you're gonna be, if you're overseas, you're all gonna be up there together, and then CONUS, short tour, extended long, and then long tour volunteers, you're all gonna be ranked and stacked like that. This list you will never see. You will never know where you are on this list. This is only for the eyes of AFPC. Your commander, your chief, your first sergeant cannot call AFPC and ask us where you are on that list. That's how we keep it fair and equitable. So nobody knows. There's 20,000 of you and 1 of me. So I can't let every last one of you know where you are on that list. All right, the next cycle is the overseas returning CONUS mandatory mover cycle. So this is anyone with a DROS that expires within whatever respective month that we're working, and an assignment availability code, the AAC 50, that expires within whatever month that, or whatever cycle that we're working on. This is specifically for those people. This is not for everybody. I have a lot of people that say, I didn't get anything during this cycle. It wasn't for you. If you didn't have a DROS within those months, or an AAC 50 that expired within those months. So it's 2 different cycles that people need to know the difference. So this is, I think you guys are all on 50s.
Mm-hmm.
So this is for you. Okay.
So we would play this list, not the overseas list?
You can play it. So the overseas list that you may be available for should come out at least a cycle before whatever your respective OSR cycle is.
Copy that.
It'll come out like a cycle before.
Okay.
That way you can at least try to go overseas before we force you somewhere in the States.
So if my code 50 is up in June, so let's focus on the bottom row real quick. If my code 50 is
Hint.
no, so hypothetically speaking.
Uh-huh.
So all right, so my code 50 is up now July 23.
Okay.
And if I wanna go overseas from here,
Mm-hmm.
would I then look, it'd be available to me in October?
But it's different. I don't know what the last slide, I don't know what the dates are on the last slide. I don't have the calendar memorized.
Right.
But it's whatever the cycle is before, so probably October.
Got it.
So I would just look at those,
Yes.
yeah, I would just look at that calendar to be
Mhm.
sure what it is.
Okay,
Cause the months don't line up the same.
got it.
It's like 9 or 10 months.
Alright, so just like the overseas cycle, you have to be able, well, y'all will, cause that's what we're looking at. You'll be within those DROS and expiration dates. The assignments will be available on AMS, whatever that date is. And then they are due, you'll still get that 14 days, they're on that due date. Again, don't wait till 11:59 on that last day. It happens, don't do it. Just whatever day between the start date and the due date, just get it updated. And then we'll match it, and then the assignment will flow. Now, with this one, if in about 2 weeks after that due date, and you don't have an assignment, call us. Because there is a reason why we didn't look at you. 9 times out of 10, it's more so for overseas, is because they do not have retainability. So when you're overseas, you have to have at least 12 months from your DEROS for us to even load anything on. So if you don't have it, just call us and let us know, and then we'll make sure that you have that assignment.
Sir Mills, can I add something real quick? Something else important for this that people don't know either, once you end this cycle, it's important for you to look and see what's being advertised, because you're gonna get an assignment where we need you at. Some people think, oh, I can just put down wherever I want to. What's important is for you to see what's being advertised, because your MFMs and your FAMs and assignment NCO has already identified the locations you're needed at. So I always advise people to put down that least desirable location, even if you don't wanna go there. Like, you wanna put a preference, because at the end of the day, you're gonna get an assignment. And this is where we need you to go at. So try to put it from the one that you really don't wanna go to, because you're gonna get one of those locations. So you wanna put something, because if you don't put something, the system's gonna put you someplace where you need it at. So even if you don't pick a preference. So we want you to try to be flexible and have a choice in that decision. So it's smart to put down one of those locations, because we're gonna give you an assignment. So, and you wanna kinda make that decision, because at the end of the day, you're going to that location. And that's important, because people think, hey, I'm not gonna put none of these locations down because I don't wanna go here. Well, we need you here, so put one of those locations down, because you're gonna get it if you have already been identified and have that code that you're returning back in that cycle.
All right, so the overseas returnee, the CONUS mandatory mover, the OSR CMM cycle, another 8-week process. So if you're a joint spouse, don't look at it. It ain't for you. Don't look at it. If you're a joint spouse, your assignment is worked after the cycle. And you will get whatever we and your assignment team can get you both together. So don't even look at it. You don't have to update your green sheet. It's not for you. So the first week we start with who's actually coming back within those months. So we look overseas. We actually get a roster. It has everybody on there. We scrub it and we see who's coming back. We see who actually has assignment. We see who's projected to separate, who's projected to retire, who's projected to go to a DSD, who have some medical issue and can't move. We look at all of that. Same thing with your CONUS mandatory moves, your AAC 50s that are expiring. We look at all of you and we look at all of that to see who's actually coming back. The next week we go in and determine where do you guys need to go. So we talked about before, we talked about that requirement, the requirement and entitlements versus vacancies. So in the CONUS, because everybody's going to the CONUS in this cycle, we man to the worldwide average again. We do not man 100%. We man to the worldwide average in the CONUS. So again, just because you call a base and you say, Minot's open or Travis is open, doesn't mean you're going there. It doesn't mean that they're entitled to get you, because we man to the worldwide average and not to 100%. So we go in and see exactly where you guys need to go. Where we actually need people is what we look at, and that's how we get that number. We work with your MFMs again, and they're telling us that such and such a thing is happening, and we take that into consideration and move the numbers around to what works. So every one of you will have an assignment. This is how you will get it. So then it's advertised for those 14 days. You go out there and you rack and stack what we actually advertise. And then we go in and we do the match. And we'll talk about how we match you guys in a minute. Again, just like Sergeant Al said, you need to make sure that you actually put what we advertise. It happens every single cycle that I get somebody who in every rank and every AFSC puts something that I don't advertise, and they're disappointed because they didn't get looked at. And we'll go over why in just a second. So after the match, we work your joint spouse assignments, and then your commander would get that email saying that you got an assignment, and then they have that 7 days to tell you or not tell you. And then after that 7 day, you will get that congratulations email, and then you start out processing with the MPS. So here's the priority for overseas and CONUS mandatory movers. So So priority number one is everyone on your short tours. So everyone that's in Korea or Turkey, they're priority number one. Priority number two are all your long tour locations. Priority number three will be you guys, your CONUS mandatory movers, your AAC 50s. Regardless of how long you've been there, if you are on a 50, you're on your CONUS mandatory mover. And then number four is no preference. So, let's just say you are Staff Sergeant Snuffy at Osan. So you're on a short tour. So now you're priority number one. And I advertise Bill, Travis, and Minot, and you put Florida. You're no longer number one, you're a number four. So everyone's gonna get somewhere nice, so you're probably gonna get that Minot base that nobody wants to go to. So it's important to put what I need you at, cause that's all you're gonna get. I'm not even looking at Florida. If you don't put what I need, you're gonna get whatever's left over. It's just how the cycle fair.
That's a foot stomp. I didn't know that either. So
Don't
that's
do
why-
it. Don't do it.
Come on, teach.
Right.
It happens every single cycle. I have someone put something that I didn't advertise, and that's the only thing they put, or they don't put nothing at all. So if you're number one and you don't put nothing at all, you're now number four. So, just something to think about. Equal plus assignments. So this would be where your KDP and KDL are.
It's a tough topic. Chokes you every time.
So these are all your special assignments, all your vector positions, the special duties. All of your assignments should have been on Equal Plus. You had to actually go out there and click the button to get it. My position was an Equal Plus job. So you'll see the actual job description on there of what the job is. You'll have your points of contact, the volunteer by date, and the RNLTD. It'll all be on that ad. This is not the same as the cycles. So if you want this job, you have to actually go out there and apply for it. You won't see these in the cycle. This is something that is out there every single day.
I got a quick question. If you see one of those Equal Plus jobs advertised, and then later on you see it advertised on your overseas list, does that mean like it just didn't
It won't
get,
be.
it just didn't get filled?
It
It's
won't
two
be.
different main
It's two
points.
different things. So and when we're working the cycles, we only work, so we're talking about many points now. So many points are how, the requirements that your MAJCOM functionals said something need to be manned to. So if you see like the same location posted, it's not the same
It's
job.
a different
It's
job?
two
or-
totally different jobs. You'll see the same location, but they're two totally different things. I get that question. every
Example,
single
Herbert
day.
Field, right? Herbert Field's in Florida. So you got two different passcodes there. Cause we got ACC Red Horse there, and then we got main base. So main base would be normal mapping. So if we're listing something in the cycle, normal, 9 times out of 10 you go on main base. These are totally different.
So that job is advertised for a minimum of 20 days. You have 20 days to go out there and actually click the button. With that, you actually have to click the button. A lot of people don't click the button and email us, why didn't I get selected? You didn't click the button. You gotta click it.
And they'll argue. Check this out. They will argue. Yes, I did. So I just go on AMS, we all do, the FAMs, and I can look on there and say, no, you didn't, because it tells me whether or not you clicked the button or not.
We can see it.
So we can see it. Now, there are glitches in the systems that we have dealt with. We do play those case by case. That's why we do go back. If you said you clicked it and it didn't show up for the ball list, we will verify. We try to keep everything fair and equitable. So those cases do happen.
With that, sometimes, that's why it's important to read the description of whatever that job is, because sometimes it actually asks you to send in a package. So if it asks you to send in the package, you actually have to click the button and send in the package. If you don't do one of those, we're skipping you. Again, there's 20,000 of you and one of him, because he's the one that's picking us.
So another thing I want people to understand real quick, time on station matters. Yes, we do have time on station waivers, but just because you see an ad and you've been on station 1 year, and you see that ad and you wanna apply for it, 9 times out of 10, like you're gonna be at the bottom of the list. And then if we even go that route at all. I get a lot of those people are like, hey, I wanna get out of, we always say Minot. There's some people who wanna go there in Cannon, but they'll be like, I don't wanna be here, and they click the button just to get one of these ads. At that time, I hate to say it, I'm just learning this too, pretty much wasting your time. And you're wasting our time as well, to a certain degree, because now we're just overlooking it. So all that stuff that she's talking about, time on station, high year tenure, if you know your high year tenure won't line up with that Equal Plus ad, like if you know you gotta do 3 years, and you only got 2 years left on your military service, I wouldn't do it, because I'm gonna overlook it. So a lot of those things come up, why didn't I get selected? And I had to validate this stuff, so I had to go through and put notes, because we get audited, on why we didn't select you, and we have to put that information in there. So we're not picking and choosing, it is truly fair and equitable. So, I know what he said. No, it's true. No, I'm saying.
I know what you're talking about.
So the non-ball, there's actually a non-ball roster that we go off of to pick you guys, and it's separated. So it goes off the overseas. The overseas goes off of the eligibility for overseas listing that we talked about a couple of slides ago. And then CONUS is racked and stacked by the data rise station. And then we also look at your availability code. So your HYT, if you're HYT restricted, don't apply. It's not getting extended. The Air Force said it's going in. That's where you gotta go. All your assignment availability codes, assignment limitation codes, we look at all of that. And if you can't meet what we need, we're not looking at you. So just make sure that you can actually meet the requirements of whatever that ad requires. So special programs, the Voluntary Stabilized Base Assignment Program, the VSVAP. So those were those 4 locations that I was talking about, Grand Forks, Minot, Cannon, and LA Air Base. So these are our constrained locations. You have to actually go in and apply for VSVAP. There is, in the AFI 362110, there's actually a whole chapter on it. And if you go into MyPERS, there's a PST guide on it as well. So you can go out there and read those. And those are stabilized too, with Grand Forks and Minot going to 5 years, and Cannon and LA Air Base going for 4 years. Humanitarian EF&Ps, we have a very small part in it that is worked by a separate office at AFPC. The only time it comes to us is when they're ready to get you your next assignment. That's the only piece we have in it. Follow-on and home basing. So that's if you have a short tour and you're applying to get that next assignment before you go on that short tour. Maximize your preferences. You have 16. You have 8 OCONUS and 8 CONUS. So I would maximize it because you never know what we can or cannot support. Because again, with those, we're betting to the worldwide average and not 100%. So you never know what the manning is at any given time. With that, you cannot apply for short tours. The AFI says it is for overseas long tours. So don't apply for short tours because you're wasting a preference because it's gonna get skipped. So don't put a short tour on there. It happens. People don't read it. So don't put it because I will skip it. The high school senior assignment deferment, the HASAD. So that's if you have a junior getting ready to come up on their senior year and you wanna stay at that location. You don't have to have an assignment. So you're just being proactive if you don't have an assignment. So you can make sure that you stay there so your dependent can graduate from high school or whatever that location is. It's in the AFI 362110, and there's also a PSD guide on MyPERS that goes into detail of what are the requirements for this and what is actually needed for us to consider it. With this is not automatic that you get approved for it. We have to have Manning. Manning has to be able to support it. So it happens all the time where it gets disapproved because Manning doesn't support it. That's the only reason why we would disapprove it. Base of preferences, maximize your preferences. You get 8. With that, it's a base of preference. Put a base. Don't put a state. If you put a state, they're skipping it because it's a base of preference. It happens every day, so don't do it. Just let your ever know. Make sure you're putting bases. I hear all the time, my chief told me to put a state, and you'll look at all of them. No, I'm not. Florida has a lot of them. I'm not looking at all of those on a base of preference because it's a base of preference. And a lot of people get screwed that way, because they only put states, and we don't look at. And again, it's 20,000 of you, I can't go back and send emails to all of you saying, let's switch this up, because at any given time, who knows what I'm working on? So just make sure that we're putting states, yes, bases.
But for your dream sheet, do put states if
Yes,
you're
for your
open to
dream
go.
sheet, if you're trying to update something, you could put a state or a base, that's totally fine, but specifically for the base of preference application, put a base. For follow on and home basing, you could put states, that's totally fine, just, it's specific for base of preference. Yes, sir.
For BOP, is it correct you cannot BOP overseas, only stateside?
Yes, BOPs are only in the CONUS.
So if you're trying to go to a specific state though, and there is multiple bases,
Put them all down, you don't get 8 of them. And we'll go specifically into the different types of BOPs in just a second. The court orders child custody is CCCA, CCCD, this is fairly new. So if you have some type of situation, we all have them, and you're trying to get to your children, you can apply for this, but there is caveats to who's required, who's eligible for this. You can always apply to get put into the program because you're not with your children. But read that PSD guide before you apply for it. So what we're trying to do is get you as close to that child as possible. So let's say you're at Luke and your kids are at Davis Monthan. You're already there. Don't apply. You're close enough. The AFI says we're trying to get you into that vicinity of where they are. So just think about that. So we're as close as we can get you is what we're trying to do. Not
Keep in
just
mind-
using you as a PCS.
Yeah, some of the examples that she's using are things we actually deal with on a daily basis. My caveat, because everybody in here is NCOs, the reason we're foot stomping these PSD guides is because that speeds up the process. If you understand what's in there, when you send it up, it streamlines everything. What happens a lot of times is people will apply for some of these things, they didn't do it correctly, and then they're wondering where their stuff is. And it's getting sent back in the system, going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So my foot stomp is always remember and tell your airmen this, Manning has the support, and you're not always gonna get it, but make sure they're doing everything by what the guide says. And that's, if anything comes up, that's why I'm pushing people. Because I'm like, hey, I need you to read this guide, because it's coming back. And then we're starting, you're just prolonging the event, so. Everything foot stomp, you heard it said 1,000 times, Manning has to support. There are no guarantees.
And don't call us asking for minute needs. I can't give it out. I can't tell 20,000 of you what the Manning is because that's not fair and equitable. So please don't call me. I can't tell you. Because I guarantee you when I hang up that phone, it's changing. So I just lied to you. So don't call me because I literally can't tell you because I don't know what it's going to be whatever you're trying to apply for. I don't know what I don't know. Base of preferences. So we're gonna start with the first term airman. So a first term airman must have an approved CJR, which happens around the 3rd and 5th month of their enlistee. If they're 4 year, 3 years, so it's between the 35th and 43rd month, and 6 years between the 59th and 67th month. So around that 3 to 5 year time, depending on what they enlisted for. So they must apply before they re-enlist. This means if they know that they are staying in and they want to re-enlist, whether they get their BOP or not, make sure that they actually go into the system and apply. I would wait a couple of days to make sure that their BOP actually goes through, and then we re-enlist. Because what happens is, if they re-enlist before they apply, they are no longer first-term airmen. They're career airmen. So make sure they apply first and then re-enlist. 8 months time on station to apply, 12 months to PCS. So if you remember back up a lot of slides, to the time on station slide, where I said for BOPs, first term airmen need 12 months retainability. That is for first term airmen who aren't at their first duty station. So let's say Airman Snuffy got their first duty, left tech school, and went to Korea. They went to Osan, their first duty station. They're not gonna have an approved CJR by a year, because it's between the 3rd and 4th year. Let's say that they go on another assignment to, let's say they get picked up for Ramstein. So they're at Ramstein depending on the tour, 2 to 3 years, and then they're on their way back to the States. As long as they do not re-enlist when they leave Ramstein, or they apply for a BOP during their window over there, as soon as they get to that duty station, when they get to the CONUS, 8 months in, they can apply, and then they'll leave at 12 months. Okay, overseas returnees can apply, this is what we just talked about. Overseas vulnerability is not a factor, so if they're hot for a short tour, it doesn't matter for them. Gaining manning is the only manning we look at for first-term airmen. They can only apply one time. So if they apply and get disapproved, they cannot apply again. And we actually go in and look at that. So they can't say I didn't do it because we can see it. And we look at their applications monthly. Now what you guys want to know about career airman BOPs. You must have 48 months time on station to PCS, 41 months to apply. And that is because the time on station requirements for career airmen are 48 months. Overseas vulnerability is considered, so if you're hot for a short tour, but I can approve that BOP, you're not going. Because you're hot for that short tour. It's not my rules, I didn't mean to. Losing and gaining manning is a factor. So let's say you apply for Herbert Field. You're at Minot. Herbert Field says yes. When I look at the manning for Minot, it says no, you're staying at Minot. Because losing and gaining manning is a factor for a career airman. Yeah.
But obviously coming out of the special duty, that wouldn't matter.
Yeah, no, y'all are moving. I don't have anything here. So
Yeah.
all y'all are leaving Lakeland.
Yep.
So it doesn't matter. CONUS locations only. That's either for career airmen or first-term airmen. Doesn't matter. CONUS locations only. We review career airmen BOPs quarterly, and you cannot repeat your choices for 6 months. So the first 6 months, or the first time you apply and you put all the bases and we deny it, or you can apply again, but you can't put those same locations. We can still see your previous application in the system, so we're looking at it. So don't put the same one. If you put the same one, we're gonna skip it. And you applied through the virtual NPF for those. That does not apply to any of you because you're AAC 50s. The Code 50 personnel, so all of you guys, you have 2 chances to apply for a BOP. You have 2 chances to apply. So you can apply no earlier than 12 months from your AAC expiration date and no later than 9 months from your AAC expiration date. So let's say your AAC expires October 2022, your 12 months will be October 2021, your 12 months. 4 months later is your deadline, so you got 2 months that you can apply. Losing and gaining manning is a factor. It's not a factor because y'all can't stay here. There's no CE here, so it don't matter. For some other career fields, it may matter, but it don't matter for y'all. With that, and it's not on these slides, so how many TIs and MTLs do I have? Okay, all of you guys except you two. So, I'm sorry, well, all of you guys except them. So there's this program, and it's been worked through AFPC policy and HALF, and all these people have decided that if all of this doesn't work and you still don't get an assignment, you will get an assignment and not play in the OSRCM cycle. So what will happen is, whenever that time comes, and I'm not exactly sure how far out it is, it will be before the cycle though. You will get this list of 3 to 5 locations.
The MAP program?
Yes, you will get that, and you will rack and stack those locations, and then one of those locations will be loaded into the system for you guys. Yes, sir.
So I got a question for that. So, I got an MAP a couple weeks ago, and my wife, she's also MTI. Our code 50s are a month apart, which puts us in 2 separate brackets.
Okay.
So if I was to get an MAP and for me to accept it, would she get assignment as well, or that wouldn't matter because we're in 2 different brackets?
So what'll happen is, what should have happened, you're first.
I'm first.
Your AAC 50 should have been extended a month. That way y'all can move at the same time, because she won't be able to move.
Mhm.
So that's what should have happened. I guess nobody caught it. So I would advise you to go and get it so you don't have this confusion of them trying to figure out if they're gonna tell her or extend you and all this stuff, so I would just get it moved. That way y'all can be looked at together. And that, because we still have to go in and consider joint spouse. And if joint spouse don't work for both, are y'all the same AFSC?
No, we're different.
Okay, yeah, so if joint spouse doesn't work for both of your AFSCs, then policy will come back to us, and we'll start talking with that assignment team to get that worked out.
And also question number 2, right? So in MTI, we're supposed to get a BOP, right? So,
That's what that is, yeah.
so I submitted, so is that part of the BOP? Because I'm here for 3.5 years. So I submitted a BOP in July, I just got denied last week for it.
So with this ASC 50, you had to be on it for 4 years,
Okay.
not 3.
Just 3.5. When I first got it was 3.5, but they told us when I first got here at 3.5,
Mhm.
get one better.
Yeah, so it has to be 4 years, and, I think it's attachment 2 of AFI 36 to 2110. It says you have to be on an AAC 50 for 4 years. 3 years does not count. Not 3.5 neither, I'm sorry. It has to be 48 months because of time on station requirements. So that 4 years is when they're gonna move. Anything less than that, because you're a TI is why you're getting that preference. If you weren't a TI, you'll just be following the cycle.
Okay.
When they change for MTLs and MTIs to 3-year tours, you pretty much lose out on this.
You lose your BOP.
Yeah.
Yeah.
An opportunity for a
You
BOP.
lose your BOP option.
Yeah.
So
You
even-
guys get MMAT.
Even the 3, like, cause I'm in the same boat as him, I submitted mine in July, I got denied like a few weeks ago.
So it's submitted in July because I was the only one here and I had all this to do.
No, I understand, I get that, like, I understand. But basically, like, we shouldn't even get one anyway, cause we're not here long enough.
Right, you wouldn't have got it anyway, so you were just waiting for no reason, because you weren't eligible.
Cause that is a huge misunderstanding in the MTI world, that
Mhm.
everybody gets a BOP.
Yeah, when they changed the tour links, that's where the confusion came in.
I don't know where that needs to be said at. but-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what happened.
Educate a friend.
Right?
So is there like any leeway? Because somehow my code 50 is super jacked up. I'm all 4 years by 2 months.
You're all 4 years by 2
Mhm.
months.
Same here.
Let's talk after this.
He should have left, like,
Yeah.
next month.
Let's talk after this.
Yes, ma'am.
So, question going back to his situation, right? So, to extend 1 more month to match his code 50 with his spouse, I know that he's not the only person in BMT that has that.
Yeah, they need to extend it out, because the joint spouse, we can't move him without a spouse, because we can't keep them more than 50 miles apart from each other.
But is he out of his window to extend, to submit an extension?
No, he can just do, it's gonna come to me. It'll come to me. I'll see it.
So, well, with that, I was told that,
MPO should have caught that.
Yeah, the MPO should have called that.
I was told that you have to be within your 11th to 14th month from your code 50 date to extend.
But he's joint spouse, so that's just an error that somebody at the NPS or your CSS
So
didn't
he's-
catch.
yes,
So that's
yes.
just an admin error.
Because I know he's not
that
the
needs
only
to be
one
extended
that
out.
has that.
So
Yep,
we
they
actually
just
just
need
went
to-
through it, because we were in 2 different windows, they messed up our code 50s. I submitted a 2096, so that way we could match, and now, because it would have been November and October, so it would have been 2 different windows. So we got our code 50s to match, so that way now we're both in October. But it
So
was an
As much as
MPS
we
issue.
preach AFI, AFI, there are those special cases where we're not gonna do any of you guys wrong
Right.
because some failed in the system.
Right.
We'll try to do right. We always try to do right by the members. We also try to do right by the Air Force. So your case, that's what I'm saying. It's case by case. We'll try to make it right.
So pretty much like if you're MTI and your joint spouse, or anybody that's code 50 and joint spouse, like all the BOP, MF stuff means pretty much nothing. We gotta just wait until everything's over with.
I mean,
and-
go
Yes,
ahead and
yes,
apply
we do.
for it, but at the same time, when we pull your cert and we see that joint spouse code is in there with their social, we still gotta talk to each other. So that, when we go and look at it, it means absolutely nothing unless that person can support. So you can put down anything you want, but we still gotta go back and forth and see what we can get you and your spouse together.
It's a 50-50 shot.
Yeah.
But it's easier if you guys are the same career field, because we
Yes.
control that career field.
Right.
So, sorry.
No, go
I
ahead.
don't wanna keep going on the rabbit hole, but mill to mill, not same career field, who takes precedence, same rank?
The code 50 person, but since they're both code 50,
Exactly.
it doesn't matter. We still gotta get them to the same
So
place.
you would talk,
They're
for
both
example,
CONUS
like,
mandatory movers, yep,
Prime
they still
example,
gotta go.
she's 3F1. Let's just say your spouse is a 3F1. You're CE. Soon as we see your stuff, first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna reach out to her and be like, senior now, I have a joint spouse going to work your BOP, let's say Langley. Can you support? She's either gonna tell me yay or nay.
Mm-hmm.
And once she says nay, you're gonna lose that person. That's how it works. I mean,
Right.
and then we just start working. So it's not like we're gonna just turn it off or who's what. That's why it's so unique, is because we gotta get you both there at the same location. And she's gonna talk about that even more when we get to short tours, because that changed as well.
So the key piece with that joint spouse though is making sure your preferences match up and your intent codes, because that's what messes people up sometimes too, is they don't have the same location saying, hey, we both wanna go to these locations. They don't line up, so then we have to go back and see where we can support you at. Because ideally, we wanna put you guys where you want to based off your preferences, but if your preferences don't match up, then we just look at where we need you at and put you there, because at the end of the day, the goal is to keep you guys together. Like, we would like to put you where you at, but we gotta put you where we need you at. So help us out by making sure your preferences lines up.
And
Yes, sir.
intent codes.
So with the code 50, since we're both on code 50s, our code 50 expires October 2022. So our 12-month window already started. When we reached out to the MFM, we pretty much were told to just hold off until you got back.
Until you got
Pretty
back.
much until you got back.
So
Oh,
here we go.
So like, are we getting closer to that 9-month window? And if we go past that, are we screwed?
Yeah, you need to
Also,
tell
we're
them.
also 48 months. We came in before the 3-year
Yes,
curfew.
we're 4 year tours.
So you have 4 years? Yeah, I would apply. Yeah, when you leave here, go apply.
And both of y'all in the same career.
So wait, we're
right?
saying, we can't go to the same flight.
And he's
That's
KLE.
that's
So
the
that's
tough, so yes, I've talked to the MFMs about this one. That's what's tough
We'll
about
talk to
your
y'all
situation.
after.
Yeah, that's why I said it,
We'll talk to y'all
yeah,
after.
we got you. That was tough, but not impossible.
Any more questions about that? Okay.
It's
Joyce?
good, it's good information to pass on and spread, you know.
It is, and like I said, you have the slides, so I highly recommend it. Every time we do a briefing, to pass these slides on and take them with you, because that's the way you get the information out there.
Joint spouse, so every couple serves in their own right. Alright, so with that being said, there are 3 joint spouse intent codes. So if something happens, don't call us, don't call the MPS, because we can't tell you what the other person's joint spouse intent code is, because each one of you serves in your own right. It's not your spouse's business what your business is, it's not her business what yours is. We cannot tell. So I would suggest having a conversation. I say that because it happened. It happened 2 days ago. So it happens. Just have the conversation that you don't want to have. So let's go over the codes. There's 3 of them. It's A, B, and H. So A means you want to go everywhere in the Conus together. You want to go everywhere on all overseas long tours together. And for short tour locations, that means you want to go concurrently. When you look in the AF5, it states exactly what this says up here on the slide. Caveat, there was a MyPurse message that was put out a couple months ago that the rules changed. So with that, for the short tour piece for joint spouse intent code A, means you want to go at the same time and at the same place. So if we're looking at a short tour location, we have to be able to support you guys at the same time and in the same place. So both of you have to be able to go to OSAN if your intent codes are A. If not, nobody's going. So let's just say you guys weren't married. Let's just say you were single and we hit you with an assignment to OSAN and then you decided to get married. Both your intent codes are A. We can't support him. You no longer go to OSAN. That's what that means. So you're going at the same time at the same place. Joint spouse intent code B means you want to go everywhere in the CONUS. You want to go on all overseas long tours together, but you do not want to go on short tours at the same time. So for me and my husband, our intent codes are B. He's in Korea right now, and I am here, and we will meet up at our follow-on location. Because we want to go everywhere else together. So think about it, B means babies, kind of sort of. So one person wants to stay at home with the babies, which is fine. So think of it that way. Joint spouse intent code H means you want nothing to do with that person. That person can go mind their business, and you want to stay wherever you at.
It exists.
It happens. I promise you. 2 days ago, I had 2 people who intent codes were A, and then or 2 weeks ago, their intent codes were H, 2 days ago, one of them was H. So, one person's going and the other person's staying behind. I've gotten congressionals about this, so just have those tough conversations, cause we can't have it for you. Cause every couple serves in their own right.
Can I add something real quick? Another case we just had, we're dealing with, I'm gonna use y'all because you're married. She goes to Korea, and she gets her follow-on choice. We're not gonna move you to the follow-on choice. A lot of people are under the impression that, well, my spouse got a follow-on to North Carolina. I'm gonna go ahead and we're just gonna move to North Carolina and on the airport. That does not happen. You will not get there until she gets there.
'Cause it's
So
not your-
please don't make any rash decisions or anything like that, and then call. It's not that we're trying to be mean or anything, but that's just the way it is. They're not gonna move you there before the spouse gets there. You're supposed to meet there. So, that's another misconception too. Like, she's going, I know that's where we're going, so why can't you just move me there now? No, that's not gonna happen. So,
You must have 12 months time on station for a joint spouse. So long as you're there 12 months, you can apply for a joint spouse assignment. That's old CONUS, that's CONUS, it don't matter. 12 months, that's all you need. A volunteer selected for an company overseas only if requirement for spouse exists within 6 months of RNLTD. So if we hit one of you, sorry, we're picking on you. So if we hit one of you with an overseas assignment, we have to make sure that your spouse can be supported there within 6 months of that RNLTD. That's all that means. And we only can put you in authorized positions. So if there's not a position there, neither one of you will go. If it's overmanned and we can't support, and that's why we can't support your spouse there, neither one of you are going. Because we have to be able to support because of joint spouse. Again, no more than 50 miles, and that's an ocean. So that's more than 50. Non-vol selected for overseas will have their spouse considered for a vacancy. So that's at the long tour location. So long as we can, if you're a non-vol and we can support the overseas location, it has to be a vacancy to make sure that we get you guys there, because we have to keep you guys together. Any questions? All right, so here's our point of contact. You can call the Total Board Service Center at 665-0102 or 1-800-525-0102. And that is it. Do we have any more questions? Yes, sir.
So, for me, when I came here, they didn't match my code 50 to my end of my contract, so I had to match that up. So, if my code 50 expires in December and I'm not eligible for an assignment until December, would I be more likely to be looked over for overseas because I don't have that retainability yet?
Wait, say that again?
So my contract expires in December, same month as my code 50. And if I was trying to go overseas, is it less likely I would get it because my code 50 expires in December when I'd actually be able to
It just
PCS?
depends on the month, so you have to look at that schedule, that way it lines up with so it's not unlikely, because if we are looking, if the RNLTD is gonna be in December, and your code expires in December, we'll just make the RNLTD January. So we'll make it work, if you're the most eligible.
You'll get the re-enlist before then.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. I need to do it. Would it?
Yeah, you could go ahead and, that doesn't matter. You're here, you're in the States, as long as you
Yeah.
can get it, you're fine.
Okay, as long as I can.
Yeah,
get
that not having retainability thing is overseas, because we can't go in there and get around it, because they need the retainability to get that. You're in the States, so it don't matter.
Okay.
Yeah, as long as you can get it, you're fine.
Okay.
They give you a window, right?
Yeah, I was just
Go
curious.
Yeah,
Because
Go get
mainly
this,
the
where you
overseas
going?
portion.
yeah. Any other questions?
any rumors?
That's a
There
lot.
we can- there we
Just
go.
watched a bunch of them.
And
As
that's the
soon
key.
as the list opens up, if you're the first one to update your dream sheet, you're the top.
Be honest though,
list.
how many rooms thought that? Like, soon as it hit, I better be out there clicking, right?
Nah.
I did.
I can't see who number one.
But then I'm sitting in the seat now and I'm like, it doesn't matter. Right?
Yes,
It's
sir.
not a rumor, but I have 2 instructors that are mill to mill on 3-year tours, like non-ball 3-year tours, and they leave next November,
Okay,
so they won't get a BOP on 3-year tours,
correct. They'll play in cycle.
and that cycle is like, I want to say,
correlates with whenever their AAC expires, is when they'll get it.
Okay.
Yeah, it won't be that soon, it'll be months back, yeah.
I got one.
Yes, sir.
So I know you didn't talk too much about it, but the MMAT process,
I hate it, by the way, I don't agree.
Yeah, we don't own that
I don't
process.
like it.
okay, well, I'm just saying, so,
Quick, you saw that, right?
I turned mine down. Okay, I got my list and I turned it down because I wanted to play my overseas list.
Okay.
And what I was told, you know, not from you guys obviously, but you gotta turn that down to be eligible to play overseas. And I'm not, like, I'm thinking about back here, like, if I made the right choice or not, because, and I turned my MAP down, so if I don't get over an overseas list, then I'm gonna play the mandatory.
Which came first, the MAP or the?
The MAP.
Yep.
Well,
So you-
they were within
Yeah.
a week of each other.
Yeah, so you have to pick one or the other.
Right, I had a
Yeah, you
day,
have to pick
2
the
days
MAP.
to
Mhm.
turn this down and play this, or,
Yeah.
so I just turned it down.
Yeah, it's because the manning is gonna change. So we give you that and you have like a week to decide because we're not loading people because we know that we have those lists sitting out there. So if you wait till like the next week, the manning is gonna change because we're constantly loading those assignments. So if you didn't like it, you would probably rate.
No, and I understand that. I mean, I take that risk, so.
Yeah, it's
But-
all a gamble.
And I know you, if you can say this, or probably not, but.
Can't wait to say it.
The three, you know, I got 3 choices, right? Let's say I don't get an overseas list, from what, you know, what has happened to people who are like, oh, well, those 3 bases will just be on your code 50 mandatory movers list anyway,
Not
so like,
necessarily,
like,
because the manning is gonna change. So I don't know.
how big of a snapshot are those 3 bases of the, and I know you don't know that off the top of your head, but, like, where do those
What's
3
your
bases come
curriculum?
from? Sharpies, 3.
Yeah, they can go everywhere and kind of overman and everything. So it may
Yeah, I
not-
know they're super overman, so.
Fire,
that's why I'm
fire
trying
is
to-
very old, man. Power Pro is hard to
It
do.
may or may not be the same.
You know, it must have been pretty bad like mine.
See Power Pro's over
I am
there.
trying, I
It
actually
just
look at
depends on the rank,
basics.
the higher you go up, it's hard to do Power Pro.
And I asked a question about the England deal earlier, because I'm not saying I got an inside scoop, but I talked to a person who was literally there, and they advertised a one-man job at Creighton, and it, I don't know if it got filled or not, or that's
Just
just
me, yeah.
And then I turn around and now that position is
It wasn't supposed to be, it was a mistake.
Yeah, it was.
was on there.
Yeah, we caught it at the end before it was advertised. Yeah, it shouldn't have been on there.
So does that mean?
It shouldn't have been, it wasn't
Does
supposed to.
that mean I get it?
No, it wasn't supposed to be advertised in the cycle, it was supposed to be done.
It's supposed to be an EPA
in the
ad,
EPA ad.
but it got picked up in the cycle.
Yeah, and it wasn't
So what
supposed
does
to.
that mean?
I messed
Put that
up.
on there.
I messed up. So I can go ahead and say that. We were working the cycle, and it was the first time I worked the cycle. I
'Cause
got
I was out.
excited. She was out, and I thought I was doing everything right. I was in there cooking. And she got back, and she was like, what is this? And it was one of my EPA ads that got loaded, so I had to pull it out because I couldn't have both. And we were trying to get, some of those locations we were trying to get filled right away. And my predecessor and the MFMs were trying to get those positions filled, so they used the EPA route because we were trying to get people in there. So when I didn't catch it
You get it.
and it wasn't filled, the system said, I need a body there. So that's why that happened.
So is that position still gonna get filled, or is it?
But yeah, it's gonna get filled through
That's
EPA.
getting thrown off the list?
No, it'll be filled through the EPA. Yeah, it's still there.
You still might have hope.
Yeah.
Keep saying your name. Keep saying your name as much as you can. Leave. What? Leave.
Any other
Cause
questions?
I saw that and like, I kinda saw that and I kinda figured, I was
You
like,
really wanna go there, don't
I
you?
do.
Is that a 20 you dropped on the ground?
He's gonna answer it.
So, yeah.
Any other questions?
Cool. With that,
He's a good
just
guy.
wanted to give you a quick thank you for coming out to IASA. You see, sir.
Appreciate it.
Man, thank you. Thank you very much for coming out.
Thank you very much.
We'll post it back up on that 3E AFSC. Check out the Teams page. I'll update and put these slides on there. And then thank you all for coming. We'll get with Chief Bynes to see when we'll do our next brief, either January or February. So thank you all for coming out.
It'll be us again. So.